Good morning and welcome to Coffee and the Word. Can we just say that adulting is hard? And I know some of you cringed just then because I used adult in the verb form. But we know what we mean when we say adulting, right? Adulting is that moment when you go from dependent upon your parents to completely independent on yourself. And so you discover a lot of new things, right? Because I remember growing up, I couldn't wait to be on my own. I couldn't wait till I was in charge of my own life. I couldn't wait till I got to make all my own decisions. I couldn't wait till I got to spend my money however I wanted to. I couldn't wait to become an adult. And then I became one. And I wanted to go back. Anybody else have that feeling? Like, when you started discovering that you don't get all the money you make because taxes. You don't get to keep all the money that you keep after taxes because of bills. You are now responsible for making sure that you stay alive. It's no longer on somebody else, it's on you. I remember distinctively when I graduated high school and I went off to college, I thought, finally independence. Finally, I get to make my own decisions. And I'm just going to say I wasn't very good at it. In fact, dare I suggest I was terrible at it. I made nearly every wrong decision that can be made. I didn't do anything right. I was a hot mess, as they say. And so I remember I came home and moved back in with my mom, and I was paying bills even then. I went to work and started paying bills, but there was still some real comfort in the fact that in the end, this was really on mom, right? Mom was the one who had to make sure that we always had an apartment. Mom was the one who had to make sure we had electricity. Mom was the one, even though I would give her money to pay these bills, I wasn't yet adulting. I was still dependent upon my mom. My mom still washed my clothes. My mom still cooked my dinner. My mom still cooked my breakfast. I was still very much codependent. And then I got married, and my wife and I discovered that independence is, hard. Really hard. And so I think one of the things that we don't realize, and I certainly don't in the way that I should, one of the things that tends to make it so difficult for us is we don't realize that we weren't supposed to be independent. We're supposed to be dependent. When we're growing up, we're learning how to be dependent upon our parents, and then eventually it shifts and we're to become dependent upon God. And our parents should always be dependent upon God, right? So the whole time, our whole life, our dependency should have been on God, which brings me to today's verse of the day. Today's verse of the day is the 23rd Psalm. I know you all know it. Most of you can quote it. You've heard it in movies. You've seen it on billboards, and it's the famous, "The Lord is my shepherd. I want for nothing." And let's read it. "The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul." And so as we read this little poem that David wrote, David is acknowledging something that I'm not sure we've yet acknowledged. And that is that the Lord is my shepherd. He tells me when to rise and when to lie again. He tells me where to go and what to do. He is the one who is going to direct my paths. And all too often we become rebels, right? And we want to pave our own way. We want to do it our way. And it just always ends in destruction. It always ends in chaos. And we wonder, why do we keep ending up where we started? Why do we keep failing at this? And I really believe that it's because we've never really allowed God to be our shepherd. We're still striving for an independence that we don't like. It ain't all it's cracked up to be. Sorry, Christina. It's just not. It's not all it's cracked up to be. When we talk about dependence upon God, there's a lot of freedom in that. And you're like, what do you mean freedom when we're depending on God? That's not free. Yes, it is freedom. You are bound by difficult choices. You are bound by insurmountable odds. You are bound by a lot of things. Don't you feel sometimes You're almost a servant to your own reality. Like you're not running your life anymore. Your life's running you. Have you ever felt that way? Like you don't get to decide when you rise and when you sleep. You don't get to decide. You don't really, because you've got things that have to be done in order for you to just exist. And so when David writes this, David is the king, and he writes this, "The Lord is my shepherd." And it's one of the most peaceful poems. And unfortunately, we read this at funerals because we think that he's lying us down in green pastures at our death, but he's not. He's making us to lie down in green pastures now. He's leading us beside quiet waters now, if we'll just let him. That's what Jesus means when he says, "Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." And he's like, you guys are taking on burdens that were never yours to carry. Your worrying is not letting me shepherd. Your fears are not letting me shepherd. Perfect love casts out all fear. And so when we read this psalm, and when you hear this psalm, I don't want you to think about some person who has passed on from life to death, and they're now sitting in paradise and they're enjoying the beauty of paradise. He's not the shepherd anymore. We've made it home at that point. I mean, he's still the shepherd, don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean? Like, he's not leading me through something. I've finally arrived. And we can all rest because we've reached our final destination. But right now, he's our shepherd leading us to that destination. And so I want you to listen. So first of all, make him your shepherd. And what you do if you're a sheep and you have a shepherd is you hear his voice and you follow it. You go where he leads, even if it doesn't make sense to you. You know, a sheep does not sit and wonder, I don't think I agree with you on this one. A sheep goes wherever his shepherd goes because he trusts the shepherd. He trusts that the shepherd will always keep him from harm and always lead him to sustenance and always lead him where he needs to go. The Lord is my shepherd. And when we do this, the next phrase becomes a true reality. I lack nothing. I love that phrase. I lack nothing. I have everything I need. How many of you feel like you're deficient? Like there's some big deficiency in your life. I lack nothing when God is my shepherd. And he goes on, he says, he makes me lie down in green pastures. And I don't think this is really what David meant when he said it, but as a person who is constantly doing and striving, I really need God to make me lie down. I need God to make me rest and rest in peace. And I don't mean finally, although I do look forward to that day eventually. But I mean rest in the peace of knowing that he's my shepherd, where I can just sleep and not worry and not ponder and not get caught up in my head. When the Lord is our shepherd, we don't spend time fretting about things we can't control. We spend all of our time going where the shepherd leads us. And so we lack for nothing, and we find rest. And he leads us beside quiet waters. We don't have to worry about getting swept away by life's tumultuous reality. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. I hope you realize that adulting became hard because you believed you could do it on your own, when that's never been the case. You've never been called to independence. You've been called to dependence on the Lord, our shepherd. I hope this helps. I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. God bless you. This has been another edition of Coffee and the Word.